Hi guys, welcome back to another video, or if you're new here, welcome. My name is Shay, or Shayna, whichever one suits you, and I'm sure you can hear them already, but today's video is about my experience with owning ferrets. So, they're hanging out with my cat. So I'm currently filming in my little sister's room, which is an area for them to play around with. It's safe for them, they can play around, they have a whole room to climb, go through things, go on buckets, anything they want. They got carpets to go under. They got a lot of stuff to play around with here outside of their normal cage. So today I'd like to talk about the pros and cons that I have had in my experience with owning ferrets and just some general information that I think people should know before getting ferrets. And I'm sorry the lighting, I'm filming this at night. But just some things that people should know before getting a ferret or two. So I have two ferrets, Chewy and Vader. Chewy is indeed a Marshall ferret, which is really hard to get away from, at least where I live, because ferret breeding is very dangerous, especially for females, as female ferrets will continuously be in heat, and if they do not breed, they will die, or if they do not get spayed. Okay. Little Chewy. So yeah, this is Chewy, Marshall ferret. He has a little K on this here. You can't really see it, but this is him. He is named after Chewbacca from Star Wars. Troublemaker of the two. Loves to bite on everything. So I think his name suits him. He loves to bite on my shinnies. But yeah, he is about 2 years old, around that age. And yeah, he likes to steal potatoes and hide them. And then that one behind me is Vader. He is not a Marshall ferret. I was at a pet store, a locally owned pet store, and somebody surrendered him because he said he was evil. And he is an albino ferret while Chewy is a sable ferret. So he was surrendered. Chewy. He was surrendered because everyone said he was mean and evil, but he's actually the most sweetest boy I've ever met. He loves to give kisses, while Chewy likes to bite me. Both of my ferrets are not much of cuddlers, but he loves to give kisses. He's very friendly. Love him. He was very feisty in the beginning, but he's so sweet after a few days, so he's not evil, even though he's albino. And people like to associate that with evil. He's not evil at all. Just to start, throughout this video, I've had to deal with Chewy biting me. So that's one thing. People might not notice that ferrets are nippy. Just in general, even Vader's bit me a couple times just in playing. This does not hurt them, but it's called scruffing. Kind of teaches them, make sure you hold their bottom. It does not hurt them at all. This is what moms used to do to their babies as kits to hold them around. They have extra skin. They even play and hold by their extra skin like that. So it does not hurt them, but that kind of shows them like, no, don't do that. But I haven't been able to train it out of Chewy at all. I've tried for years and he just doesn't stop. He doesn't bite hard, but he nips because he wants to play, and I still haven't trained it out of him, unfortunately. So that's one of the cons, is if you can't deal with constant biting and chewing, just be careful. Because I know some ferrets don't, but you never know when you get an animal. Another thing, a lot of people say they smell. So my ferrets are descented and spayed or neutered, so none of that going on. But even with the scents, even with the decenting, I wouldn't say they smell. They definitely have a little bit of a musk to them, like a musky smell, but it's not significant. There's this huge myth that ferrets smell. To be honest, I haven't noticed anything except for when their cage is not clean. So I clean my cage every 2 to 3 days. And if you do not clean it often, of course it's gonna stink. They are carnivores. They are pure carnivores, and their digestive system is small. So they poop a lot. And I mean a lot. So of course it's gonna smell, and it's wet poo. It's not like bunny's poo where it's more hard. It's really, really like soft and ooey and gushy and ugh. So it's just, that's gonna stink if you do not clean it up properly, but them themselves don't really stink at all. Another thing is you can litter train your ferrets. Once again, my ferrets don't like to litter train. So they have a couple spots in their cage. I have a Ferret Nation cage. I think that's one of the best cages for ferrets personally. And I put puppy pads on most of the levels, not all of them, but the general areas where they poop. And they like to poo in corners. So I tried at the beginning litter training, but they just like to sleep in it. That's it. They love to sleep in it. Like, they don't poop. They never pooped in it. They just like to sleep in it. So I gave up on that because it was just going everywhere else. But you can litter train your ferrets. And back to the thing about being on a carnivore, they need a raw diet. So that's another thing that you're gonna have to prepare for if you want a ferret. A lot of people feed them kibble, but a lot of that stuff they can't even digest, and that would actually leads to more stinkier and more often pooing, actually. Where a raw diet is, they still poo a lot, but it's a lot less stinkier and a lot less of it since their body is absorbing more. So that's why I switched them to a raw diet, because there is links to kibble for ferrets for cancer and some other really just deathly illnesses. So I put them on Big Country Raw. You can totally make your own raw food. I make my own cat's raw food, but for them it's just really simple, and it lasts a decent amount. I saved like a pack, so if you buy a Big Country Raw, like say like the chicken pack's like 12 bucks, and each pack has 4 in it and 1 like little packages in it, and 1 package lasts me about 3 days for the 2 ferrets. So, but we'll say Vader eats more because he's obviously a way huger ferret, but he's not a Marshall ferret, so it makes sense. That is something that you'll have to be accustomed with to get used to it. Also, another thing is some ferrets love, or a lot of them like to hide their food around. So my ferrets have never hid their raw food at all, but I've heard from vets that a lot of people choose not to feed them a raw diet because they hide them in couches. So I think the best way to prevent that is to make sure they eat it all in their cage. At least that's what I do to make sure. But they've never hid any raw food in my couch or anything like that. But once again, something to watch out for. But speaking of hiding, these guys are little tricksters and jokesters and little thieves. They love to hide stuff just in general. Chewy loves to hide potatoes. I'll find them under my couch, in my speakers, and blankets. He loves to hide potatoes. That's definitely something to watch out for. Chewy loves to hide like rubber toys, anything. They love to hide it. So keep anything that you do not want, or at least if you know where things are, hidden. That's why I like to keep them kind of constricted to one room. If anything goes missing, it stays in this room regardless. But a lot of times we do let them outside in the whole house. So we have little play tubes set up in my living room. But yeah, we find a lot of stuff around there. Another thing is they are messy. I wouldn't say messy in the way that like, you know, like my hedgehog steps around in their poo or anything like that. But obviously you can tell from them playing, they've knocked over stuff, they've thrown stuff around. When they play like this, they get busy and messy and love to mess around things and drop stuff and climb on things. Like I've even caught Chewy up there. They love to do that stuff. So that is just another thing to watch out for, that they just love to make messes and mess everything up while their carpets are messed up because they love to go under them. All that kind of stuff. Also, my ferrets aren't cuddly. You see a lot of people show their cuddly ferrets, and of course, each to their own. But my ferrets aren't cuddly, and some people look into that, but for their ferrets. But just know each ferret's different, and these ferrets are not gonna want to cuddle you, possibly. I know as they get older, they might want to. I cuddled with Vader a couple times, but Chewy, no, they want to be on the go. They want to go, 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 go. They do not want to cuddle, and that's okay with me. That's not why I got ferrets. But just for somebody, they might be looking for an animal to cuddle. They're not always going to be cuddly at all. Another thing is they sleep for a long time. So they sleep for 18 hours around there a day. But on the times that they're up, they want to be out and they want to play. So I try to give these guys at least 45 minutes every day of outside time of their cage. I try to shoot for more, but that's the bare minimum I try to give them. It's really important for them to be out, get exercise, play around. Their cage is spacious, but their size is like, Vader's huge. He needs like a proper room to play in. Chewy's more on the smaller side, but look how big this guy is. He is a chunky ferret. Thank you for the kisses. Kissy time. So, he a chunky boy. Chunky. Little tongue. Chunky boy. So, he needs a lot of space, and if you can't give that to them, then do not get a ferret. Do not at all. Another thing is, if you are very sensitive to smells, back on the smell thing, I probably should have mentioned this beforehand, but a lot of people will bathe their ferrets a lot to get rid of that musky smell. To be honest, like, yeah, I noticed a musk for like a couple weeks and it went away. Do not bathe your ferrets, like, ever, unless necessary, like maybe once a year. If you do bathe them, make sure you do a oatmeal bath. Their skin and their fur, the oil on there is very, very delicate, and if you're washing them constantly, they're gonna have such dry fur, such dry skin, all of that stuff you don't want. They're gonna be itchy, they might scab. You don't want that. I noticed when Vader came to us, his tail was extremely scabby, and we stopped washing him. He switched to a raw diet. We stopped. Sorry of moving constantly. They keep knocking over my stand. But yeah, we gave him raw food. We stopped washing him, and his tail all cleared up, and the fur started growing back on his tail. So just stuff like that you might not think makes a difference. It makes a big difference for them. So now the next thing could be taken as a pro or a con depending on people, but they live for quite a few years. They live for like 8 to 10 years depending. So it's definitely a commitment. It's not something, you know what I mean? Like, this is a commitment. So make sure, like, if you're gonna get a ferret, you are committed to these guys, because they are adorable. They are a lot of work, but they're a lifelong commitment. And now that I've talked about the cons a lot, let me talk about some pros that I find. These guys will never fail to make you laugh. They are some of the most funniest animals I've ever owned. Even if you just owned one, there's some studies shown that ferrets, you know, everywhere you go, ferrets are told that they're needed in pairs, but there are some studies coming out from Europe that say that they don't. They're solitary animals, but I just have two, because at the time, the only research that was out was that ferrets needed a pair, so it's up to you. But definitely if you do have, you should always just be spending a lot of time with both of them. But they are just hilarious. Together, apart, they will never, ever fail to make you smile or laugh. They are adorable. Their little faces, they are so cute. Every time you walk into the room, they will come out of their bed, out of their sleep, to the front of the cage to say hi. They love to jump on me. They're just something that makes me laugh and warms my heart every single day. Another thing is, they are such cool animals. Like, they're like little noodles. Like, they're so freaking cool. They have extra vertebrae, I think they're called, in their spine to make them all like zigzaggy. I promise you he doesn't care about this, otherwise he'd be like screaming at me. Little zigzaggy. I don't want to hurt him. But they have extra little vertebrae, and it's so funny, and it's so freaking cool watching them get into stuff. I love just the way that watching them steal potatoes is so cute. Watching their little war dance. He's doing it to me right now. Watching his little war dance is the funniest thing ever. And it's just so rewarding taking care of them. They're like a mini cat and dog mixed into one. That's like the best way I can explain it. They are definitely more work than a cat or dog. In my opinion, I have both, and these guys are a lot more trouble as they can get into stuff. You can take stuff and stuff like that, but they're like a mini... They're like a mini cat and dog in one, and I love it so much. But definitely they are different, but I just think it's cool. You get the best of both in them, of being just like as agile and curious as a cat, but you can do little tricks with them. But they have like the goofiness of a dog. No biting. Look at camera. Why do you want to bite your mama? Why? But I think any extreme animal lover can just be so affectionate and be in awe of how cool these animals are, even though you love to bite me. Another pro is if you're lonely, you'll never have to be alone with these little guys. They will always want to play with you and hang out with you. I've never had one of my ferrets decline to hang out with me. You're trying to bite me. See, he's trying to play with me right now. You can't bite your mummy. No biting mummy. Sorry, I had to move positions again because Vader likes to sit under carpets and dig. What? That's me! Anyway, you'll never be alone or have a dull moment with these guys. You'll always have somebody around you. Can you guys go play? Go play with each other, not me. Another pro is that they're definitely quiet. They are much on the quiet side of just the way they are. They're definitely loud when it comes to toys and stuff, as you can hear, but just them alone, like in their cage, around sleeping time, they're really quiet. They don't bark, they don't squeak, they don't meow, they don't chirp. They don't do any of that, so they're pretty quiet. Another pro is that if you definitely get a cuddly ferret, it's definitely just such a beautiful moment to cuddle with a ferret. Of course, like I said before, I've had a couple cuddle moments with Vader, and there's some of the moments that I will cherish. They are the cutest little sleepers and the cutest little cuddlers I have ever met. I love watching them sleep and cuddling with them. Such freaking cuties. But obviously a pro that could be added that is, like, obviously I don't have cuddly ferrets, which means when they're done playing and they don't need my attention anymore after they're done playing. They don't want to like cuddle with me, anything. They want to go sleep by themselves, which means more time for me to do other stuff. So there's a pro and a con on both ends of that. Overall, I think if you're looking at ferrets, definitely look at your home life. If you live in a home, apartment, or whatever, you want to be careful. These guys are destructive. They like to chew on stuff. They like to rip stuff apart. They like to make a mess. So there's definitely stuff you have to be careful of. I don't think these animals are for the faint of heart. They're messy, raw food, lots of poop, smelly if you don't take care of them. Like, they're not for somebody who wants more clean, less needy animals. They do need a lot of attention, to be honest. They are probably, I would say, they're one of my animals that take a lot more of my time. But overall, they are, if you can and have the time for these little babies, they definitely will make such good and rewarding animals if you have time. But if you don't have the time or space, you're just gonna end up with a very sick and sad ferret. So I definitely think you should do your research. There's more than just in this video, but definitely do more research on these beautiful creatures. This is just some of the stuff that comes to my mind when talking about my ferrets. Or like a fun fact, did you know you have to be careful with pork with ferrets because there is a bacteria in there that can make ferrets very, very sick if you do not get it from a professional. So like stuff like that, right? Like you would never know if you don't do research. So you should definitely do your research. But overall, these are just my little pros and cons. I know there's a lot more cons when it comes, I think, to any animal, to be honest. There's a lot of cons. Nobody really likes to clean or whatever. But I think the fact is the reward of it, and these animals are extremely rewarding just to hang out with them. It's hilarious. The memories I make with them, the laughs, how they warm my heart. If I'm ever having a sad day, I can just sit in here, play with them. And to me, that makes it worth it and so rewarding. And yeah, once again, I'm sorry for all the background noise. I just really wanted to do a video with them here so you guys can kind of see some of the stuff I deal with. I don't know how long this is going to be after editing, but this recorded almost 30 minutes of it just because with dealing with them and stuff. But I'll see you guys all in the next video. Goodbye. I hope you all have an amazing day or night.